What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Boozers Basketball Podcast. I'm here with my co-hosts, Panos George and Vanik Panosian. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Doing good. Hot.
Nice. So we're in the thick of summer league, but free agency has been a little quiet, but I thought we would take some time to discuss the Kevin Durant situation. It appears that Brooklyn is asking for the world, as you would probably expect. But do you think that they're asking for too much, Vanig?
Absolutely not. Kevin Durant is still top 10, top 5 player in this league. You've got him on a 4-year deal. So you just saw what some of these other guys got in their trades. So that leverage wise, I mean, from what Atlanta took from the Spurs to get Murray, and then Gobert going to the Wolves, Durant's better than all of these players and definitely deserves to be one of the best trades ever. So the Nets, they can't give him up for nothing.
I agree with everything you said. But Panos, if we're trying to figure out which team could potentially come up with the goods to get Durant, it doesn't seem like his current wish list, which was composed of two teams only, Phoenix and Miami, doesn't seem like they have the juice, especially now that Phoenix matched the offer to retain DeAndre Ayton. So do you think it's possible that the Nets do ignore KD's wish list and trade him to another team that actually has more assets to provide in return to Brooklyn?
I think they're going to sit and wait for a better deal. I mean, we already saw, like you said, with the Suns matching the Aiden deal from the Pacers, 133 million, 4 years. I mean, and he has veto power for an entire year. So he can't get traded for a year unless he gives approval to the Nets. But I don't think anyone wants to go play for the Nets right now with what's going on over there if KD's coming the other way. Anyway, Suns is out. Suns are out. Nets will probably sit around and take him into training camp, and he'll probably start the season on Brooklyn. That's what I'm thinking. Heat, it's going to be a little tough because I don't know how much value Hero holds. I feel like it's different every time or every other day. If he has any value and picks to go along with him. And then I think the Toronto Raptors probably have the best potential package outside of the Warriors if he was going to go back to Golden State. But I don't see the Toronto Raptors offering someone like Scotty Barnes. They won't offer him. That's their future. It's going to be something like Siakam and picks, maybe a OG. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But I still think he's going to start off with Brooklyn when the season starts.
Yeah, and KD doesn't seem like the type of person that will be a malcontent like Kyrie or James Harden were. When James Harden was trying to get out of Houston, he was visibly not non-existent. He stopped caring. He was gaining weight, wasn't putting all of his effort in. So I don't. Do you think that could happen with KD, or do you just expect him to be the 28 point per game scorer that we've come to expect? Because if there's 4 years on this deal, the Nets have no reason to trade him anytime soon. And if they're getting some elite level performance from KD, regardless of whether Kyrie's around, why would the Nets trade him if he's just going to play at a high level? How do you think that scenario sorts itself out, Vonnie?
Yeah, I think Durant, where he's at with his contract, his personality type, as far as just being a hooper, I don't think he's gonna. I agree with Panos. I think he's gonna be on the Nets like with the season starting, and I think he's gonna play through, and he's still gonna want to get moved at some point. But I don't think, like you said, I don't think he's gonna be a malcontent on the team or disruption.
Yeah, and if KD is back to what we expect, he will be putting up high 20s, maybe even 30 points a game, and the Nets are winning games. Do you think that there's any way that he might start second guessing that he wanted to be traded, Panos?
To me, the way I see it is, even if they start winning games and say they even win the championship, I think it all depends on what Kyrie's going to do at the end of the season, because I don't think he wants to play by himself after this season, right? So But I kind of want to see how Kyrie feels after the end of the season. If he feels like, okay, maybe I don't want to get traded. Maybe I want to stay here for the next couple of years with KD. But yeah, I think it's all dependent on what Kyrie does. I think if Kyrie stays, he'll stay long term. I mean, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is with the opt-in, the Nets could, in theory, run it back with the 1 year deal with Kyrie, and they know they have KD locked up. And it seems like these guys are really betting on playing with each other. Like they really like each other. This is something they orchestrated to get to Brooklyn in the first place. So if things go well next year and Brooklyn is succeeding, I don't think it's out of question that they want to stay there long term. I think this could be maybe a situation that could get turned around. Do you see it that way, Panos?
It's possible, but I will say, who's their GM? Is it Marks, Bobby Mark?
Sean Marks.
Okay, so they just gave him an extension, right?
Right.
So I feel like the trust or like whatever there was between Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets is not there anymore, or somewhat, but like maybe at 10%. But if they're giving Marks an extension and not Kyrie, I mean, do you really blame the Nets for not giving him an extension? I mean, he sat out more than half the season, right? So like I see where the Nets are coming from, and I understand Kyrie wants his money, but if you're not showing up to play games, but I'm still hoping as a Laker fan that he gets traded. I don't know if it's going to happen before training camp, but yeah, I don't know. It is what it is right now to me.
Gotcha. So let's say that we do see, I mean, it is looking more and more likely with each passing day that Kevin Durant is going to be on the Nets to start the season. So if he's on the team, where would you slot Brooklyn in the East standings, Vonnie?
That's just Durant and no Kyrie, or both of them.
Let's say both of them, because I think the Lakers are the only team that is showing interest in Kyrie whatsoever. So I don't really see him getting traded either. So let's just say both of them are on the Nets and they're playing together. And they made some interesting little moves to try to remain relevant with like TJ Warren. I think they traded for Royce O'Neal. So what do you think about Brooklyn's sort of place in the East ladder if both KD and Kyrie come back?
I would put them in tier 2 in the East, somewhere, anywhere, probably as high as the 3 seed, but realistically as a 5 or a 6 seed. I don't see them really being better than the Bucks, Heat, Sixers, Celtics, unless they just started gelling and they got kind of the right role players performing around them. But there's a lot of variables there as far as these guys are injury prone. Obviously, Kyrie's a prima donna. I agree with what Panos said too right now with Sean Marks getting the extension. I always liken whenever these situations happen, publicly with players, wanting out of an organization where we've learned that Durant and Kyrie's issues are with the organization and their vision not being aligned. It's like kind of like the ex-girlfriend you get back with, and that's why I don't think it's salvageable. Like once you've taken it there, there's definitely distrust between ownership and management, and also the players. So I don't even think winning is a cure for that. I'll go back to the Harden example, right? They wanted Harden to come into training camp and play because they brought him John Wall and Boogie Cousins and Christian Wood, and they wanted him to give it a go and see that, hey, once we start winning, then hey, we can mend the fence. But obviously, that's not the case. So I think, like I said, I think inevitably at some point, like right now, they're playing the leverage game. The Nets are trying to act like Durant's going to stick around because they want to try to get the best trade offer possible. But I think this is going to end up being where these guys are both off that roster at some point.
Yeah, in a vacuum, I agree with you. Once the sort of trust between a franchise and a star player has been fractured, it's very difficult to rebuild that fence. But I think with KD, it might be a little bit different because he doesn't seem like an antagonizer towards management or basketball related things. His issue is about who knows what in terms of like creating burner accounts and having rabbit ears and listening to what the media has to say. But when it comes to strictly basketball, it just seems like he is focused on that and he handles his business the way you want him to. And if Brooklyn isn't getting any takers, you have to expect that this will probably prolong for quite a while. But Kyrie is a completely different story. That's why it's really hard to project what this Brooklyn Nets roster is going to look like. But I think you made some very valid points when you said that even if they come back fully intact with KD and Kyrie, we're looking at a 5 seed. I mean, this team, they played a competitive series with Boston in the first round. Everybody wants to say that they got swept and it was like a severe failure. But if you look deep into that series, every single game was competitive. Jason Tatum hit a game winner in game 1. Brooklyn could have easily won that game. They were up double digits in the second half of game 2. And then by the time they went back to Brooklyn 0-2 down, I mean, they didn't get blown out, but it just seemed like they played like a deflated team. So it'll be really interesting to see how this team comes out if they do remain intact as we start moving to the season. But there's plenty of time before we get there. But it sounds like both of you are pretty confident that KD will start the season with the Nets. I think I would agree with that. So moving on, we did see DeAndre Ayton get the max offer sheet from the Pacers at 4 years, 133, and then Phoenix matched it. So how does that really change your impression on the Suns either way? I mean, personally, I thought that if the Phoenix let him walk for nothing, that would be an egregious mistake. And Phoenix has really said that they don't think DeAndre Ayton is a max player, but they decided to match anyway. So Panos, how do you take that information with Phoenix not believing that Ayton is a max, but yet they had to match the offer sheet?
It's kind of weird. I mean, like before all this happened, before Ayton came out and said he was looking for a max, the Suns did come out and say they want to bring Ayton back, but they don't think he was a max player. Well, I mean, he's not a max player in my opinion, but like you can't let a big man who has some pretty good talent to walk away like that for nothing. So I felt like, I don't know, I'm kind of mixed about it, but I get where they're coming from. They probably think they can trade him down the road somewhere out after a year, but I also thought they can maybe do like a sign and trade for Miles Turner, but that looked like it was out of the question. So
yeah, and this kind of goes back to the whole organization star player sort of drama that gets started. Do you think that this relationship between DeAndre Ayton and ownership with Phoenix can be salvaged, Vonnig?
Another one. I think it's really, really, really hard to bounce back from it. I think if it does end up working, it's not going to be because of the organization. I think it's going to be the fact that Monty Williams is an amazing, amazing coach and leader, and I think Chris Paul and Devin Booker, from the coaches and the top tier players having a conversation and kind of reeling his confidence and maybe even turning it into like, hey, you're our teammate versus don't let ownership stuff kind of cloud that, might make it work. But yeah, I totally thought that this was going to be like a sign and trade scenario, which now doesn't look like it's necessarily going to be the case. Which, yeah, Panos is right. I think he has the clause though that he can basically approve his own trade, but I think that's like not till like the first of the year type of deal. So we'll see where that lands. But I mean, ultimately, from Ayton's standpoint, he's getting his money, So I think hopefully he kind of do some, mental gymnastics on himself to be like, hey, you know what? I'm getting paid what I wanted to get paid. I'm in a competitive place that drafted me. I've got good teammates, and maybe they can make it work. But I thought the Miles Turner option would have been nice.
yeah, I agree.
Where do you put Phoenix in the standings in the Western Conference, Panos? I mean, because they're essentially running it back, right? And this was the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, maybe like a slight favorite over the Warriors entering the playoffs out of the West. And then they self-destruct in game 7 and they dealt with all this drama. But if we're looking at the big picture here, this is the same team that just won 60 plus games and was the best team in the NBA. So With all this offseason stuff kind of getting sorted out from a Phoenix perspective, how do you see them in the West?
Um, going back to saying to your point where they were not the point, but your statement about being the first in the West last season. Well, one of the big reasons Steph Curry was hurt, they dropped down to second place. The Warriors did, and then the Suns took over. Two, Chris Paul's another year older. He doesn't have those LeBron James genetics or drugs.
Thank you.
Um, so I don't know if they're going to be. They won't be favorites to me. I think they might crack the top 4 or 5 spot around there. There's just too many good teams coming back. Especially, I'm very interested to see what Denver does with their healthy squad with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic, who came off an MVP season. And then another big thing is what can I say right now? If the Lakers somehow, I don't know if they're gonna allow picks. If Kyrie comes in, you can argue that they're gonna be a top 3 team. If Kyrie and AD, it's a big if, stay healthy and play. And then you have Memphis, you have the Pelicans, like you said on a couple of streams or podcasts ago, that they're looking good as well. You have the Wolves, who weren't too bad. You have Luca and the Mavs there. So I don't think it's gonna be really tough for them to be like a favorite in the West to me.
Yeah, those are all great points. I can't really argue with anything that you said. I think Phoenix is a 5 or a 6 seed right now, probably based on
Yeah.
what we've seen, because we've
I
seen
forgot, sorry, I forgot
Minnesota.
to mention the Clippers too. I mean, they're coming back.
Yeah, the West is extremely resurgent right now with all the players coming back from injuries, trades that have taken place, and things of that nature. So, is there anything that has caught your eye from Summer League? Today is actually the last day of Summer League. Vonik, I'll start with you. Is there anything that has been especially interesting during this 2 week period of Summer League?
Yeah, the league's been awesome. Paolo is the real deal. He's everything we thought. We said he was the most polished prospect in this draft, and he is going to run away with Rookie of the Year, barring any injury or anything like that. The guy looks special. Um, I will be the first to admit that I was way wrong on Keegan Murray. I know the Summer League is a small sample, but Keegan Murray's been balling out. He's probably going to be your Summer League MVP, and he should be. I mean, the guy's had some monster games. He's shooting from all over the court. The Kings actually might not have fumbled this. And again, we've seen other people perform during Summer League, and then NBA season starts, and it's a completely different story. But like I said, Keegan Murray from the eye test so far looks solid. Chet looked great too, man. He had a couple strong games. Another guy that we're worried about his build, and we'll see how he kind of he bodies up with people. But he also had a strong performance. Sad for me. I think the biggest letdown so far has unfortunately been Jabari. Uh, the one good thing is his defense has been stellar. This kid just turned 19 years old. So, obviously we're not putting a verdict out yet, but and the shooting though for the summer league has been pretty atrocious. I think that'll come with time and once he's playing with true point guards and with our starting unit. But Jabari's definitely been of the first 5 picks the one that's had the biggest disappointment.
Yeah, the good thing for Jabari Smith though is that he won't be relied upon to be the primary scoring option. The Rockets already have Jalen Green, who has already proven that he could be a 20-point per game scorer as soon as we start next season. And then they can kind of bring along Jabari Smith offensively, at least at his own rate as the season progresses. And even it took Jalen Green some time, maybe like half the season before he started to emerge, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there's always going to be the rookie woes in terms of like getting adjusted to the game, the physicality, and then obviously just the games. College, you're playing a game every 2-3 days. It takes a while to get your body and conditioning ready for that. The one thing I also say is that with Jabari, we got John Lucas, man. That guy's a great developer. So I feel good about the coaching staff that we have around him to help him get to where we need him to be.
That's a good point about just you need player development, and John Lucas, he played a part with Jalen Green too last year.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
John Lucas. I mean, he was basically before Silas got hired with the Rockets. His name was in the hat for being our head coach, but he's such a good player developer that and very very respected around the league. Like I said, I'm not worried about that standpoint. I think Jabari's in good hands. Hey, I want to give one shout out, man. Tari Eason. Tari Eason led summer league in rebounding, 10.4 rebounds per game, and this is a small forward. This guy, once he gets his shot going, dude, just get ready. I'm telling you guys, I said it when we did all the podcasts, sleeper picks and 17, dude. Tari Eason is going to be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year sometime in the future. Dude, this kid's real, man. Watch him play.
Glad to hear it. Is there anybody else outside of like the top 5 that you thought was particularly interesting in summer league?
Ooh, man, I was so harped on Eason. Yeah, I mean,
You did give him a shout out, and he was outside the top 5.
What's up with Ivy in summer league?
Ivy balled out for a game and a half, and then he rolled his ankle, and then he sat out. But man, Ivy looks like everything we thought he's going to be too. Man, another immense talent.
Do you think that this draft class has the potential to be as good as last year's draft class, Panos?
That's tough. Right now, no, I don't think so. I mean, that last year's draft class was insane to me. They had Cade, Jalen, Scotty Barnes, Suggs. I know I'm missing one that's really big too. Who was the third pick?
Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley, yeah. So, and then why can't I think of his Giddey?
Josh Giddey, yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great players in that one. I mean, they have the potential to. There might be 1 or 2 that stand out, or 3 of them maybe. But I do want to give a shout out also to Cole Swider, who shot 53% for the Lakers on 3-pointers, minimum 50 shot attempts from 3. Which
he
is
went to
Syracuse,
good, so I'm partial to Cole Swider, man.
He has a shot. He has a nice shot.
So do you think he can make the team?
Definitely.
Have you seen our team? Have you seen it?
Hey, what about McClung? Did you guys watch this little guy?
Who?
Matt McClung, dude. He was on
the Warriors now, isn't he?
The Lakers summer league team last year, and I think maybe they had him on G League or 2A, and then now he's on the Warriors summer league, dude. And he's a little Steve Nash-ish quick, but like you could tell, like I was impressed with him. He's definitely worked on his game. And like I said, he was pretty fun to watch, man. I don't know if you guys caught any of his games, but that's another undrafted but fun player to kind of keep eyes on.
I didn't watch as much summer league as you did, probably, Vonig, but isn't the championship game later today?
Yeah, it's the Blazers and the Knicks, I'm pretty sure. Which, dude, the Blazers and the Rockets played a couple games ago. The Blazers have a pretty good summer league team, and that's with Shaedon Sharpe getting injured in, I think, game 1. He hurt his shoulder and hasn't played since. So, yeah, the summer league teams are for the Blazers is pretty solid.
They should sign Dane to that summer league so he can actually win a title.
Yeah, dude, honestly, the sad thing is after today with the championship, dude, it's going to be really, really bad. It's going to be pretty quiet basketball wise. So we got to enjoy today, man.
The Knicks might actually win something.
We need trades is what we need.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell is probably the next shoe to drop, but let's talk a little bit about that since you brought it up. So the Knicks look like the favorite to land Donovan Mitchell, and it's looking like a when question instead of an if question. So now that you guys have both mentioned that the market for superstars has gotten completely distorted, and we know that the Knicks usually overpay. So what do you think is a reasonable set of assets that the Knicks could possibly give up, Panos?
I mean, they can give up the 4 picks, right? That's what they're allowed, just 4 first-round picks and then maybe a couple pick swaps or 1 pick swap. They'd obviously have to give up RJ Barrett or some young player off there. Like, don't they have Emmanuel Quickly? Is that his name? So they can give up some players, but like, I get it. It's Donovan Mitchell, but like a few podcasts back, I even said, I'm not really impressed with Donovan Mitchell. He's mainly a scorer, and yeah, he can put up some big numbers for you, but he's not consistent. He's not consistently the best player on the team night in and night out, especially in the playoffs. So is he worth all these picks for the Knicks? Definitely, because they need a superstar, right?
I think RJ Barrett is really where the hangup comes in for me. That guy should be untouchable if you're a Knicks fan right now. What do you think about that, Vonnick? Personally, I think it would be a mistake to trade RJ Barrett away for Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, one, like you just said, RJ Barrett should not be in that conversation. You got somebody that has hope and promise that you got via the draft, and showed a lot of upside last. If you're gonna trade him, I just don't think the ceiling of RJ Barrett and Donovan Mitchell are that different. And if I am even considering giving up RJ Barrett for Mitchell, damn well better believe I'm not giving you a bunch of trade assets like trade picks with it. You know what I mean? It's one of the if you're going and looking now, everything is like the baseline the Gobert trade. Yeah, well, at least in the Gobert trade, one, way big overpay by the Wolves, right? But two, they didn't give up any rotational pieces that really mattered. So if I'm giving up RJ, maybe I'm giving you 1 first-round pick with it, and that might be it. Or I'm going the other way. I'm giving you filler players like Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, like some recent draft picks that really haven't hit yet, and then I'll throw some picks in. But Donovan Mitchell, to me, he's very talented, obviously, but I also think he's still a volume shooter. He's not. He's maybe top 20, 25 player in the league. You get what I mean? So I'm not going to leverage my entire.
And his fit with Jalen Brunson creates a situation where you have a terrible defense in the backcourt.
Absolutely.
And Julius Randle is not going to save you on the back end. So you're creating a team that is just going to get lit up defensively when you have Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell as your starting backcourt.
You do it like this, just okay, end result, right? Say what you just said. You got Brunson, Mitchell, Randle, and think about what you just did to your team long term to get those 3 players. And what does that get you? It's not like, oh, dude, we're immediately title contenders. I'm not that much.
Not even close.
Yeah,
I still think they'd be like a play-in team. It's not going to move the needle as much as they think they are.
They'd probably be battling with the Nets for like a 6 seed.
I will say where Mitchell will make a difference on a team is if the Heat can get a third team to help facilitate that trade, and you can put him next to Jimmy Butler and Bam. That would help them a lot more than the Knicks getting Mitchell. I think that would move the needle a lot for them, especially with Jimmy Butler, who shoots like 0.78 points per game per possession. Like his efficiency is not that good in scoring sometimes. Mitchell can give you that. I'm just saying, Mitchell would be a better fit for the Heat than he would for the Knicks, even though the Knickerbockers want that type of player. It's not going to move the needle for the Knicks. For the Heat, it would.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I kind of alluded to that in a previous podcast that Donovan Mitchell could really change the game for the Heat in a big way. But when it comes to it seems like New York has the best package out there for Utah. And Danny Ainge is a shrewd GM, and he's going to really get everything he can for Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen. Vonnick, I think you're right. If it's RJ Barrett that has to go, then you can't salvage away all of your draft picks in the future, maybe 1 draft pick at max, but RJ Barrett is really going to be an important part of where the Knicks are going to go in the future, and you got to do what you can to retain him, even if that means maybe not overpaying for Donovan Mitchell. So that'll be very interesting to see unfold. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been a blast talking with you all. I know the NBA sort of discussion is going to get quiet, but we'll have plenty of other videos for you. So stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye, guys.